And
Oh,
we're
my
back.
kids love it. My kids love
And
it.
we're back.
Do they? No, they do not. Dude, please stop is quite often the
Were you
Stop, you're embarrassing me.
yeah.
dancing the Bad Bunny last night at the
Uh,
apparently there's a few like cameos in that whole dance crew. Like Jessica Alba was in there. They had listed all the people that were in and around the stage, I guess, when he was
Oh yeah,
going by. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to the Vitality Check podcast.
Thank you, Jason.
I'm the
Jeez.
host for today. Kev's going to give up the reins finally one time.
What?
So,
We're gonna
as
team up
always,
today.
joined by my esteemed colleagues, Kevin Longpre to my right,
Thank you.
to my far right, Dr. Sean Landry.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Yeah.
Well,
Some Super Bowl talk. Terrible. Not a good game.
No,
right.
no.
Really bit of a yawner.
That's tennis, right?
You're the big football guy, I know that. Even though you played quarterback in high
I
school,
did.
so
No, now I just don't watch. I don't watch, so I don't know anyone.
yeah.
It's
So it's
There's
kind of
yeah, it's true.
I watched the opening with the boys. I made some wings and nachos. It's so funny. And
same thing.
Brody goes, Brody,
Last.
we're eating, and we're having fun. Like he was excited to eat and stuff. And all of a sudden, his food finished. And he goes, Dad, I'm really not into this. He was so cute. Like we don't have. I'll tape it, and it was so funny. He's like, Yeah, I'm not into football. I'm like,
Uh,
Okay,
That's it.
yeah,
it is.
a lot of waiting,
It is kind of long.
a lot of waiting. Right?
Whistle,
You thi-
stop,
It's a 4 second
stop.
play,
It's a,
40-second clock.
I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, I guess the entire like why you find sports exciting, well, football in particular must be just you're anticipating something happening, but then often nothing's happening,
Yeah,
right? Every play, it's like you're hoping for something the entire game,
totally.
but they're only playing like with that play clock,
Yeah, yeah.
like it says 15 minutes, 60-minute game. There's probably what, 7 minutes of actual football touches
Yeah.
in the entire game. Less, because I was doing when I put the kids to bed, I was doing the 30-second jump. So it was like so much easier.
For sure.
Like I'd hit a play, boom, done in 2 seconds. Oh, boom, next play, boom. Because the 30-second timer was perfect for
Oh, let's try that run
for
again. Oh,
yeah.
still nothing.
No,
Okay,
no.
good.
Oh, that didn't work last time either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, I think, but that's why I think some people find it appealing because
Yeah.
you don't have to be fixated. You
Yes.
can watch, and then you can talk, and
Yeah.
you know,
No, no,
It's
for
more
sure.
about the eating.
it's more about the eating
Eating.
and whatever you're doing with your buddies.
Commercials. People love the commercials.
And
Mm.
and I think that's why some of these announcers get paid so well because really the better the announcer, the better the experience too because they've got so much
They
knowledge on these guys and the stats and
they keep everyone
like
involved in the game.
if you're a stats junkie, like that's a great sport for that too, right?
Mhm.
They're all about that.
Right.
Yeah. Probably out of necessity, right? Over the years, right?
Exactly.
This is so people don't fall asleep.
Yeah. Oh
Nice.
no, they're phenomenal athletes. I'm not saying
Oh,
anything, but yeah, you're right. That was a bit of a boring game. I felt bad for the New England quarterback. You're like, dude, come on, make a play. But they destroyed him.
I
Yeah,
get that.
Seattle's
He
defense
looked
was,
way too cocky in the beginning of the
yeah,
game.
Seattle's defense was just
out of control.
on top of
Yeah.
every play.
We're gonna punish him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
I-
did. There's actually my brother sent me a cool clip 2 years ago when this coach when he sat the team down. There's a really cool like foreshadowing of being in the finals for their NFC championship or whatever, or the AFC anyways. And he went through step by step about all the things. He goes, "We're going to be doing this," and he goes, It's going to be 30. It's going to be 30 degrees here. It's going to be wet. It's just another day for us. Whoever's in here facing that." And it was so cool, like how he set the scene. Talk about intention, right?
Nice.
And it's really cool. I'll send it. I'll send it to you.
Sorry, who does it? Who?
The coach,
The
the coach
coach,
of
okay.
Seattle, for 2 years ago when he took the
Amazing.
program over, and he stands up in front of them and he paints the picture over time about all the work they're going to do to get to that position. He goes, and whatever opponent we're facing, he's like, this is just another day for us. He's like, it was so cool how he put that out, and then
Yeah, nice.
yeah, yeah, the power of intention. So
Well, it comes from
yeah,
the top and how they
yeah,
lead and they share that vision with everyone,
yeah,
and they get on board.
yeah.
And it's clear. So they know how to get on board because they know what the expectations are. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, today we are going to discuss all things shoulder. So
Ooh,
as we're thinking of things to,
might be a multi.
yeah, it could be a multi-episode thing. So we're trying to think of different, obviously topics that we think that people will find interesting and that they can relate to. We obviously lots of shoulders come into our practice. Well, lots of shoulders. Everyone has to. But lots of shoulders dysfunction. It's very commonly in dysfunction. So we thought we'd go over, different things, maybe different ways that we look at shoulder injuries through the eyes, the lens of a chiro and osteo, and then different ways that the shoulder can present from its physical stuff to its biomechanical issues to everything muscle organ relationship to some emotional stuff to postural things.
Hmm.
We thought we'd just do a whole
Just gonna be here forever.
just forever. Yeah.
Just talking about this forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Learning all the muscles and their actions.
Mm.
So interesting. That.
Jay will take his shirt off, show you what the shoulder looks like.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Might
Probably
as well
not.
do that now, Jay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I could. Well, yours is a button up. Yours is probably easier. I don't want to remove my hair, you know?
yeah, I'm still
I don't have
smart.
to remove my You don't have to remove your headset that way.
That's true.
Yeah. So
Save it for the end.
save it for the end. So yeah, so why don't we dive into that? So we'll start with, like you said, we see this quite often, shoulders and dysfunction, most likely as a result of its complexity. It's a ball and socket joint. It's got a lot of moving parts. So unlike some other things
Not
we
just a ball
see,
and socket joint.
yeah, it's
There's
got
a
a lot.
lot of the
True, it's got a lot. Yeah,
scapulothoracic articulation.
so many things we're saying off air before we started. Do we really want to start with the shoulder? Because it's pretty
Well, it's
complex.
so unstable,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
A lot of it, I would say, one of the biggest epidemics with respect to the shoulder is, culturally how we've kind of imprisoned people in front of a computer, right? So let's just like kind of, again, we'll start with the biomechanics of it all, right?
Mhm.
And now we've made matters even worse where we're now on phones, right? We're in front. So when we look at we talked about this in a previous podcast, this idea of your environment casting and molding who you are. But um, if for years and years on end, you've been sitting in front of it or sitting at a desk with your shoulders rounded forward, your head forward, um, it creates a lot of just postural
Mhm.
tension issues, which predispose you to a lot of different potential injuries, right? With respect to the shoulder. So impingements, lack of proper balance, muscle balance, neck head issues, which can, look like shoulder issues, right?
Hmm.
So that's an epidemic, I find,
I love
postural
it too because
syndrome.
someone's like, I didn't do anything different. I
Yeah.
at my desk. I'm like, yeah, because you've done it for 30
That's
years.
the problem.
That's the problem,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, because most of it we see like people come in like Sean saying an impingement, like where you're lifting your shoulder and you feel it pinching
Yeah.
you
Bursitis,
classically in the
tendonitis.
front.
Yeah.
Well, most often it's the individuals that are the rib cage, they're kind of rounding forward. So now the shoulders are an extension of the whole thorax. So like what
We're even guilty of it because we're bent over tables all day long, right?
correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So we
So for sure that kind of mobility in your rib cage and it getting super stiff because you're kind of in the same position like Jay's saying every day going to work, sitting in front of a desk, going in your car, a lot of seated positions where you're not really creating motion in the rib cage to allow for better motion of the shoulders because if the whole center line is stuck and stiff, then the extension of that is going to be the same and eventually that's why people then go play a sport and whether it's a racket sport or anything like that they use their arms
golf, anything.
yeah they're gonna probably start to have overuse somewhere just because of one the preset positioning that they're in that is not conducive to it working well, right?
Yeah.
An analogy I always use is if you lose motion somewhere, your body will try and steal it and make up for it somewhere else, right? So oftentimes, above or below the areas that can be fixated or stuck, you're gonna use a little more, right? Because you're gonna steal some motion there. Oh, I'm still gonna play tennis, right? But then
Yeah.
what happens? You might stress the ligaments, stress the tendons above or below that joint that maybe is not moving as well as it could move. So if it's globally, like we say, with respect to postural, there can be a lot of room for error, right? And most of us still want to play, right? That's the big thing, right? You still want to get out and play. So you're willing to play, whatever,
Yeah.
quick warm up.
Couple Advils before you
There you go.
hit the ice.
Right?
People do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, like Kev, you said earlier, like it all comes from your midline and comes out. I remember even one of my teachers in osteo was saying that when we were treating the shoulder, the glenohumeral joint, so the true shoulder, they were saying how you clear all these other joints before you even actually get to the
Yeah.
shoulder.
Yeah.
Because you're going from
AC.
exactly from midline out, and then finally you arrive at the shoulder. So why don't we swing back and maybe, you know, be a little more specific on what constitutes a shoulder joint before we get into that, so that people can understand and appreciate that. Because most people, I'm sure,
It's a
would just
shoulder
think it's
girdle,
just,
I say.
yeah,
It's a
exactly.
complex
Well,
one.
like you said, so from the front,
Yep.
so when they
Clavicle.
say a SC joint, we're looking at the uh,
Clavicular.
clavicular. So like where your
Collarbone.
collarbone
Yep.
meets the sternum, which is the bone plate here.
Your
Yep.
chest. Yeah.
The
So
breastbone.
that bone, that articulation, that joint
Yep.
needs to be mobile. So you have a lot of stuff from the neck that attaches there. And then you have the other end of that, which is the AC, which is where the collarbone at the other end meets a bone, the spine of the scapula from the back, the
The
shoulder
shoulder
blade.
blade.
So these two joints are really important in the whole motion of the shoulder, the motion of the neck. So these are two big ones that you want to check for sure.
Yep.
And quite often they're stuck down, like people either from positioning that they're in, there's
Mhm.
too much tension underneath, so they don't rotate well. Because when you turn your head, they
Mhm.
turn, and so does when you move your arm, they also turn. So if there's lack of motion there, like Sean's saying, then that motion has to go pick it up somewhere else. So you start straining something else, like the shoulder joint potentially, uh, in that case, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's just mechanically speaking. Then you have obviously the shoulder blade,
Yeah. The scapulothoracic articulation, right?
Yep.
right? So that has a bunch of musculature that's holding it in place
Against your thoracic spine,
Yeah.
against your rib cage.
to almost act as like a foundation for arm movement, right?
Mhm.
So there is some obviously, like Sean's saying, some shoulder scaption there, like the uh uh the
The
shoulder
blade
blade
will move.
is
Yeah.
gonna move slightly for sure. Some people it's unstable, like they don't have enough stability in the
Strength and
musculature
stability.
around it to act as that base of strength for the shoulder. So then the shoulder again suffers more wear and tear.
Yeah.
So as we've said in previous podcasts, we can take a bunch of this compensation for a while. Shoulder is almost like a golf ball and a golf tee. It's like
Yeah.
very,
The glenohumeral
yeah,
joint. Yeah. So now you're working your way.
it's
The last.
very unstable. So it's really musculature that holds it in position. And quite often, due to all those other joints, stuff with the neck, then stuff with the rib cage that have an impact on
Lungs.
how that. So in osteopathy, I always talk about, yeah, lung mobility, the heart as well. Everything going up into the neck will have an impact on the nerve supply and mechanics going towards the shoulder. And not to mention tension here will have an impact on blood flow
Hmm.
Yep.
to those areas as well.
So it's very quite often chicken and egg, right? As we say, it's not just, the bad shot in
Yeah,
tennis, right?
yeah.
It's
Why aren't you massaging me right here?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's often like, oh, it's got this lateral pain rating, but it's actually not the deltoid, right? It's coming more from that rotator cuff or whatever it may be in the shoulder. Yeah, I think what
Maybe
you said,
explain the
Kevin, but
rotator cuff actually, because you talked about the golf ball on the tee.
yeah, so the rotator cuff, there's four rotator cuff muscles that originate off the shoulder blade itself. Three of them come off the posterior aspect, and then one of them comes off the anterior aspect of the shoulder blade. And essentially, they all wrap around and help us with the rotational movement. So think of like throwing a ball, anything with rotation, the rotator cuff will help. It also does some movements like abduction by lifting your arm away from the side. Probably as far as the muscular issues go, like tendinitis, if you will, those are the ones we'll find most commonly affected, I think, in the shoulder, particularly the supraspinatus, just anatomically where it's located, having very little
Easy to
space
pinch.
to
Yeah.
pinch, and that, like Kevin had said, or these postural positions we are stuck in often really contribute to this, rounded shoulders, internally rotated humerus, and really minimizing a space that's already small to begin with.
Choking off blood flow to
Yeah,
the
and then
area.
you start pinching a tendon, the tendon gets inflamed, it gets a bit swollen, and now you're
Brittle.
really getting a lack of space. Um, and yeah, interesting enough too with that glenohumeral joint, like Kev said, like our shoulders are really dynamic, right? So when people come in, their shoulder, it's always like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of investigation to see how all the moving parts are moving. But with such a shallow joint in that head, that ball and socket joint, our shoulders can move in obviously in all planes of motion. And it's surrounded by this joint capsule to keep it in place. And like Kevin said too, all of those muscles play their role of maintaining stability. And it's funny how like you can say like, oh, we have bicep. Like bicep does, yes, elbow flexion and some shoulder flexion to move around, but at rest it actually just helps to hold the humerus where it should be in the joint.
Yeah.
So as soon as you have these muscles that aren't doing their role, the whole mechanism gets affected, and that's where it can be
Things
from
like
a
capsulitis develop that
Yeah.
you
capsulitis,
kind of
tendonitis, bursitis.
lock down the joint.
So it's like
Mm.
it's those ones you have like from a just a anatomical biomechanical relationship, it's complex enough just to start with that.
Hmm. Yeah. And then if we, jump into other aspects of life, like we were saying, you know, uh, nerve flow, blood flow,
Yeah.
right? I often explain sometimes with patients, I joke, this was an older chiropractor. He used to use this analogy, but he would say, the spine is kind of like the breaker box of your house, and life is happening, life, playing sports, posture, whatever. It's like plugging in appliances. And sometimes you plug in too many appliances. Well, the neck is responsible from a neuromuscular standpoint, is the brachial plexus, right? So you can have feedback, right? So you can have trauma and or overuse and or repetitive use, whatever you want to call it, to the shoulder, imbalance, and over time you'll get feedback to, sensory input to the computer, right? That runs you through the breaker box of your house, and then you can have neck issues as a result. So you can get, a chiropractor will call it subluxations, where you'll get just restriction, range of motion problems, joint capsule problems, impingement problems, and then
Or
vice versa. What's that?
exactly.
And then vice versa, right? The exact from the motor output down,
Yeah.
you can have the exact same. So you could have neck issues, right? From again, postural issues, trauma,
Yeah.
life, that can cause the inverse to happen, right? So if you have lack of flow, both from the circulatory system and or the nervous system, well, now you're going to have down regulation to that area, the shoulder joint, the shoulder girdle, the long, right, all in here, and you, as a result, you can have different problems, right? So
Mhm.
it might precede these things, as most of us know, they might not be very apparent in your everyday, but then you go play a sport or you try and be functional. I use the analogy sometimes. It's like, when your alignment's off in your car, you might not notice if you're driving in a school zone because you're driving 30. But you hop on the highway and you start to step on the gas, and now you can really feel things can shake apart. So life can be like that. Your body can be like that. If you're, it's just in your day to day, you might be like, yeah, I'm okay. But then you start to,
Push it.
push it a little bit, and that's when you'll notice that things are off or they start to fall apart. So yeah, that's it. That's basically the sensory motor output input relationship between the neuromusculoskeletal system. But listen, it can be as simple sometimes as that, and then as complex as all sorts of other things, because as Kev will talk about, there's more to it than just you know
Well, even let's say we go from the osteopathic point of view too, of like the exact same thing, visceral somatic, meaning like either it's a organ
yes.
structure problem or it's a structure muscle problem. Like there's all these inverse relationships that can happen depending on where it started. So, like the shoulder could be, lung involvement is related to the
Thyroid.
deltoid.
Right.
The biceps related to the stomach.
Hmm.
All that musculature we talked about around the collarbone is related to the stomach. Then you have
Spheres.
some hormonal dysregulation can
Yeah.
happen with the rotator cuff stuff we
Rotator
talked about.
cuffs, the thyroid, right?
Heart.
Heart,
Uh, yeah,
Brain.
subscap, right?
Brain.
trap,
Yeah.
Trap,
trap
neck,
again.
Those
So like,
neck flexors, extensors,
yeah,
sinuses,
eyes.
eyes, ears, right?
the left
Those
cranial nerve.
So there's a lot of like involvement. That's why sometimes it is like Jay said in the beginning, a shoulder is not often just a shoulder
Are
No.
you
problem.
sure your shoulder's not?
Yeah.
No,
So
your shoulders
there's
fine.
definitely a deep dive into some investigating when
Yeah.
Teeth,
it comes in.
right?
Teeth, jaw.
Jaw.
The jaw.
Jaw is massive
Yeah.
for shoulders. And then again, there's in terms of German new medicine, like anything musculoskeletal is some sort of devaluation conflict that a person is potentially going through. So it's very specific to the location. So in the shoulder, this is always dictated along the lines of whether or not you are right brain dominant or left brain. And so most people are right, but if in a right uh, brain dominant person, it's just the opposite for the the other, is that the right shoulder would be something in relation to a conflict with your potential spouse or significant
Partner.
other, whereas the left one is more in terms of you and child, like
Family.
Mother
family,
child.
mother child stuff, or
Yep. Parent child.
father son stuff. Actually, that happened. Remember? That happened to me going to visit my
Yeah.
dad.
Yep.
Tell us the story.
So
That's
that
actually, this is really,
this was crazy. So just to show you how fast something can pop up. So I remember going with I have two brothers, and we drove up to see my dad. And on the way up, we were chatting about, stuff growing up and things like that. And then it ended up, long story short, on the way back, my shoulder and everything went fine there. It wasn't any problem. Is my left shoulder started to hurt. I thought I was driving and I was kind of leaning on it weird. Anyways, I got home and I could not lift my shoulder. So my wife, very smart, she was like, "What happened?" And I said, "No, honestly, everything was fine." Like, and then the more I thought about it, it hadn't had anything to do with my dad. It was my brother at one point said, "Oh, by the way, mom called me and she wanted to know when you're going to come by and fix the ceiling in the basement." And I was like, "Oh God." And I had that thought of like, "Oh man, I didn't get to that. I really let the ball drop on this." And so, am I a good son? I totally forgot. And we're busy. But I just didn't get to it. So as soon as I had that thought process, the next day, shoulder pain gone. A week later, go to my brother's. My mom's there, and I tell her, "Ma, so I can come and do the thing in the basement." And oh, don't worry about it. I found someone else. Oof.
Yeah.
Left shoulder pain started again. Feeling bad about not having.
mm,
And then, but it was short-lived because a lot of it was, uh, just out in the open. But
you're recognizing it
Yeah, you're
and
aware
exactly.
of it.
you're aware of it.
But it was amazing how the pain came and went away. Uh, when I'm talking like couldn't lift it, like it was so agonizing, and I've never had pain like that before. So they say the repair. There's always in German new medicine a repair phase, which is usually quite painful depending on how long the period of conflict has been around.
Hmm.
And this is different depending on what the problem is, whether it's a bladder problem, whether it's a shoulder pain, whether it's whatever. There's always a significance behind, well, what is the body trying to adapt to?
Hmm.
And when there's resolution, meaning you've
Yeah.
you've found peace with something or you fix something, then the body
Solution of some kind.
will fix itself. No.
Hmm.
But what can happen is when you're not conscious of it, you will get triggered and probably it will happen again with something very similar that you recognize as being the same thing. So then you keep looping in this, oh, I have pain. Oh, it's gone. A few months go by, whoop, I have pain. But if you backtrack and look, well, what was happening in those events? Something triggered you that you might not even have been aware of. Obviously, not of the link, but and then that way, that's another means too of understanding what the body's trying to tell us. It can be very beneficial if you understand it. If you don't, it can be very frustrating.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that just alludes to the, I always say the symphony orchestra of life, right?
Mm.
And all the things that, the mental, the emotional, the physical, right? We live in the physical, but we experience life on all of those planes. So we can't, you know, discount any of them
Mm.
in with respect to how you show up. So,
Uh,
um, but yeah, that's pretty cool. So the shoulder, I think we just, lightly, touched.
Good overview.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good overview. But again, as we always say, the main thing here is, well, if you're experiencing some shoulder issues or pain or dysfunction, see someone, right?
Yeah.
And if,
Start the discovery process.
and if you're not, maintain them. That's why we're always trying to maintain our bodies, right?
Yeah,
Work on your mobility.
Yeah.
Be aware of your
Those things.
posture.
yeah.
I would argue that since this work from home stuff came in the last 5 years, the incidence of shoulder and neck and upper back pain is way higher than it used to be 15
Mhm.
years ago.
Yeah.
And it's probably directly related to people at home and not having proper setups. So
You take
like there
movement
are
break.
warning signs beforehand. So if you know you feel like you're, oh, it feels tighter when I play my racket sport or whatever, that's your sign before the pain starts that that's something needs to be addressed, right? So
Yeah.
check your workplace setup,
One of
spend
Sean's
some
things.
Motion is lotion.
Motion is the lotion. Spend some time working on
You
mobility,
don't
right?
what you don't know? No.
Work on rib cage mobility, work on foam rolling, anything you can
Yeah.
to keep things keeps from at least from a physical standpoint
Yep.
to keep things moving to avoid hopefully that the breakdown of that structure.
Yeah, take movement breaks. I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's try not to sit in front of the computer for 8 hours straight.
Seriously.
Yep.
Take movement breaks, stir the soup.
Awesome.
Move.
Great.
All right.
All right, guys. So we will see everyone next week. We will be back with
Another exciting topic.
another exciting episode. Ciao, everyone.
Bye.